Two men from surveillance came onto the floor at 11 at night and stopped behind my chair. One of them put his hand on the back of it and said, in front of the whole pit, that I needed to step away from the table. Not a break. Not a word about a break. Step away, hands where they could see them, leave the tray exactly as it was. I had a full game. 6 players, a stack of purple and orange in the tray, a hard count coming. And everyone on that floor, the players, the cocktail girls, the 2 dealers on either side of me, watched 2 men walk me off my own table like I'd been caught with my fingers in the rack. They took me to a back room with no windows and a camera in the corner and told me a stack of high-denomination chips had gone missing off my game. 500s. Thousands. The purple and the orange. And the shortage, they said, traced to my table, on my shift, on my deal. 15 years I dealt cards in that building. 15 years, and not one short drawer, not one comp I couldn't account for, not one player complaint that ever stuck. I was the dealer they put on the high-limit salon because I never rattled and my hands were clean. Clean hands. That was the whole thing I sold. That was the only thing I ever sold. And now a man I'd never met was sliding a photograph of my own chip tray across a metal table and asking me where the purple went. I want to tell you about the man who put me in that room. His name was Trent, and he was my pit supervisor. Trent was smooth. He was the kind of boss who remembered your kid's name and covered your break himself if the floor was short, and everyone liked him, and I liked him, right up until the night he decided I was going to be the one who took the fall for something he'd been doing for 3 weeks. Because it wasn't a player who'd been walking chips off that floor. It was Trent. He'd been authorizing fills, chip refills to the tables, that were bigger than the tables needed, then correcting them on paper, and the difference walked off in the pocket of a man who sat down at my game twice a week and always seemed to color up and cash out at exactly the right moment. A planted player. Trent's man. And the chips that man cashed came off a fill Trent signed with his own supervisor card. But when the count came up short and compliance started asking questions, Trent did the easiest thing in the world. He pointed at the dealer. He told surveillance that the shortage was on my table, on my deal, and that a dealer's hands are on the chips every second, and let them draw the obvious line. It is the obvious line. That's what makes it so ugly. The dealer is always the first suspect, because the dealer is the one touching the money. I could feel the room deciding it. I could feel 15 years turning into a story about a woman who finally got greedy. They suspended me that night. Walked me out to my car. Told me not to come back onto the property until the investigation cleared, and the way the agent said it, I knew he already thought it wouldn't. Here is what a chip theft costs a dealer. It is not just the job. The State Gaming Commission holds your license. A finding that you stole chips ends that license, not at that casino, at every casino in the state, forever. You are done dealing. And it doesn't stop at unemployment. Chip theft is felony gaming fraud. So I drove home that night a single mother who had just been told she might never work in her trade again and might be prosecuted on top of it for a stack of purple chips I had never once touched. My daughter asked me why I was home early. I told her the truth, that somebody said I did something I didn't do, and that I was going to prove I didn't. I said it out loud, so I'd have to mean it. The young dealer who worked the table next to mine, she'd seen something. I knew she had. But she was 24 and new and terrified, and when I called her she cried and said Trent had already told her to keep her head down, and I told her not to put herself in front of it. This wasn't going to get fixed by a scared kid's word against a supervisor's. It was going to get fixed by something that couldn't be scared and couldn't be told to keep its head down. Because here is the thing Trent forgot. The way these people always forget the one thing. Those chips are not just clay. Not the high-denomination ones. Every purple and every orange chip in that building has an RFID tag baked into it. A little tag that answers when an antenna asks. And there are antennas everywhere. In the table layout. In my chip tray. At the cage. In the count room. Every one of those chips is being watched by the building itself, all the time, its location logged to the second, whether a human is looking or not. I didn't put those tags there. The casino did, to stop exactly the kind of theft they were now trying to hang on me. And a tag doesn't care who your supervisor is. So when the mandatory Gaming Commission audit opened, I made my own records request, and I asked for one thing first. The RFID reconciliation for my table, for my whole shift. And the chips told the story Trent couldn't. The missing purple and orange never left my tray while I was dealing. The tags sat right there in the rack, in my count, the entire time my hands were on that game. They only moved once, during a fill correction. A fill correction authorized, at 9:52 that night, by Trent's supervisor card. While I was on my scheduled break, 40 feet away, on a camera, nowhere near the tray. The tags walked out of my rack under his card. They crossed the pit to a specific seat, the seat his planted player always took. And then those same tags walked to the cage and got cashed, under a comp authorization signed by Trent. The chips drew the whole map themselves. Off my table under his card, to his man, to the window. And when the auditors pulled the last 3 weeks, his card was the only credential on every phantom fill in the building. The eye in the sky backed up every second of it. The surveillance timestamps put me on break, put Trent at the tray, put his player in the seat. The cameras and the chips agreed with each other and disagreed with him. They held the compliance review in a conference room off the surveillance floor. The director of surveillance was there. A state gaming agent was there. Trent was there, in a nice jacket, still smooth, still sure the dealer's word was going to lose to the supervisors. My rep put the RFID reconciliation on the screen. And we didn't argue. We just played it. Tag by tag. The purple chips sitting in my rack while I dealt. The 9:52 fill correction under Trent's card. The tags crossing the floor to the planted seat. The cash out at the cage under his comp signature. His card, his card, his card, 3 weeks of it. The gaming agent slid one more sheet across the table. The planted player had already been found. Already flipped. Already named Trent. I watched it land on him. I watched the smooth come off his face in front of the director and the state. Watched him understand that the one thing he never counted on was the chips keeping their own record. He didn't have a story for a chip that tracks itself. Nobody does. They cleared me on the gaming record that week. My license was never in danger once the reconciliation was in front of the commission. The machine had never had me anywhere near those chips. I got my job back, and the back pay, and something I hadn't expected, a written finding, on the record, that I'd been falsely accused. The casino rewrote its fill rules. 2 supervisors have to sign a fill now, and the RFID reconciles live against the paper before a single chip moves. The scared young dealer at the next table, the one Trent would have blamed next, nobody ever put her name near it. I made sure of that. Trent was terminated. His gaming license was revoked, the same license he'd been so sure outranked mine. And the state took the felony referral he'd tried to pin on me and pointed it back where it belonged. I still deal high limit. Same salon, same purple and orange in the tray. And sometimes when the floor is loud, I think about the fact that the whole time they were walking me out as a thief, The thing that was going to save me was already sitting in my rack, quiet, keeping count. I built 15 years on clean hands. It turned out the chips had been watching my hands the whole time, and they knew, before anyone asked, that mine were clean.